Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang.
Hare Krishna, welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita, here it is, because we have it, Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And my name is Bhagavad-gita. We are in the 10th chapter, in the middle of the chapter Shloki, the most central verses of the Bhagavad-gita. And I'm starting with verse 10 today. If you like to learn verses by heart, this is definitely one of them that you can put on your list. I'm reading the Sanskrit. Teshang satatayuktanang bhadyatang pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogang tang yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted in serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So we have talked about this before, how knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness all comes from Krishna. Krishna is situated as Supersoul in our heart, and we're not even able in this body to reach out for our own desires, to even remember our own desires, unless Krishna kind of opens the tap for it and directs us. This is what you wanted, don't you remember? Like we see little children, when they're small, they have no attraction for the opposite sex or the same sex, whoever. That sexual attraction, it's not there. And then they enter puberty, and they're a little confused for a few years, and then they're kind of set on, not everybody, but many, on finding a partner in life out of that attraction. So they are the same soul, they are in the same body, but this stage is reached at a certain point, because then Krishna reminds us, this is what you wanted, so now you can look for it, because it's your desire. So Krishna in the heart, I have Sanskrit words for this and I forget them, but he's the overseer, the witness, and the permitter. So we have the desires. Krishna is not forcing us into this world, he's not forcing us to go for our desires, but he reminds us, because we're actually ultimately completely dependent on him. So those who are dedicated in their devotion to serving Krishna in love, there he steps in on an even more personal way in helping us to see things, to understand things, sometimes in miraculous way. We have that in all the religious tradition. We have this sages and saints who have some level of realization that is beyond the knowledge that is available to them through studying or through their tradition. Somehow new levels open up, because that love, Krishna responds to it. And then whatever we lack, then he helps us to find that also in our service. I'm reading the purport. In this verse, the word buddhi yogam is very significant. We may remember in the 2nd chapter, the Lord, instructing Arjuna, said that he had spoken to him of many things and that he would instruct him in the way of buddhi yoga. Now buddhi yoga is explained. Buddhi yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness. That is the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, his action is called buddhi yoga. In other words, buddhi yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of this material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this. Therefore, the association of the devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. Yeah, I need to read this verse. Sometimes we ask that, what is the difference between karma yoga and buddhi yoga and bhakti yoga? Mostly we can use different words to understand it from different angles. Here, how to use one's highest intelligence means applying it to that which is permanent, that which is the highest goal, and that is always the soul's connection to God. Yoga means the process. And here Krishna is opening that path for us. When a person knows the goal of life, but is addicted to the fruits of activities, he is acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculation to understand Krishna, he is acting in jnana yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, which is the complete yoga. This complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. So sometimes we hear this word yoga, and we're familiar with yoga as a form of physical exercise that is very good for the body, but it also brings peace of mind and some form of mystical elevation sometimes. But that form of yoga is just one aspect, because in the traditional mystical yoga, we need to control the body and especially the breathing in order to have time enough to process the complete path of that yoga, because it's very difficult and we live very short lives. But the yoga aspect of it means the mystical path to self-realization. So it is absolutely not limited to those type of breathing exercises and postures. So here we're speaking of buddhi yoga, often we speak of bhakti yoga. We're speaking of that, the mystical process for complete self-realization in this life, in this world. And especially when we are able to give up our inclinations, and those inclinations we often see them in the context of karma and jnana. Karma means trying to enjoy the fruits of our activities, and jnana means knowledge, but also enjoying the process of the mental speculation, the intellectual endeavors. So when those attractions have been given up and the focus is purely on the soul's developing the original connection of love of God, then that is the pure yoga. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization, but if he's still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that the person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of service. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. So Krishna, this is very personal. Krishna has a personal relationship with devotee, and the devotee who is sincere, who wants to commit himself or herself to the process of developing love for Krishna and serving Krishna under the direction of a spiritual master in the disciplic succession coming from Krishna. And still they are not perfect. Most of us, we are not perfect. We try to... I spoke to a friend and then she said that she had been reading Prabhupada's books, she'd been hearing about Krishna consciousness, and then when she came to the temple, she was expecting that everybody would be perfect, pure devotee. And then she looked around and she was kind of disappointed. But in a sense, this is also a testimony to Krishna's kindness. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be sincere, and we have to take up Krishna's instruction, the process what Krishna describes to us as the path forward for devotional service. And then we will have different capacities, and we will have different levels of understanding, different cultural backgrounds. There'll be so many differences, and then sometimes this causes different difficulties because can't always relate to each other, we can't always understand everything. But Krishna can understand it. Krishna can see our sincerity. Krishna can see how we are sincere and determined to connect to him in this life and serve him in this life. Even if there are so many misunderstandings and we do things wrong and we understand things wrong and we forget things and we get, again, kind of attracted to our old original desires in this world, connected to our senses, connected to our identification of the body. And Krishna will deal with it in a practical way and in a compassionate way, allowing us to learn our own lessons without losing our connection to him. And this, Krishna is stating very clearly in the Bhagavad-gita. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So we don't have everything. We never have everything. This world is it's not even unlimited. The universe has an end. I was reading that in a newspaper. They were referring to some research done by, I don't even know what you call them, cosmologists, so studying the universe. So they are discussing, is the universe flat or is it curved? And it's very difficult to determine. Have they measured it wrong, or have they made mistakes in their calculations? And there are two camps and they're not really sure. But yes, the Bhagavatam describes that there are several universes, all emanated from Mahavishnu, and they have the coverings of the universe. So each universe is covered. It's not without end. It has an end. You come to that covering and you can't get through it. Normally you can't get through it. Normally you can't even reach it. But we hear stories in the Bhagavatam where they are traveling with the demigods. They have their mystical airplanes that can travel through space. You can't travel through that covering of the universe. Why am I speaking about the universe? No, I'm saying this universe, it appears practically unlimited. So many stars, such vast distances. It's not even unlimited. There are many universes floating in the causal ocean, and beyond that is the spiritual world with all the spiritual planets. There's such scope for differences. But the one thing that remains is our connection to Krishna, or to different manifestations of Krishna. Some devotees are attached to Lord Ram, some are attached to Vishnu form. But the soul's natural relationship to the Supreme Lord, that we are never far away from that. We are never distant from that, and we are never distant from Krishna, because even when we go to the material world, he comes with us in the heart. So we see sometimes persons who have been practicing Krishna consciousness for a very long time, sometimes who have been very prominent in the association of devotees, who have been, guiding and teaching others, or making decisions on the level of the development of the movement. And somehow it seems that they lose their way. But then we can actually understand that for somebody who is new and a beginner, who may not be so, we're not always so intelligent. Sometimes we come to portions of the Bhagavatam and it's difficult to exactly understand what it is. But we have a sincere desire, and Krishna says, don't worry about it. I will look after you. And then sometimes we see devotees who have come to a certain level make very unexpected decision, seemingly giving up Krishna consciousness. But sometimes that is also Krishna allowing them to realize and understand some of the anarthas, some of the doubts that we kind of will have to go through. A doubt is not like, it's not like a cup of water that you think, if I don't want my cup of water, I put it on the table and then I walk out and the cup will stay on the table. No, our doubts, they are more entwined with our whole sense of self and sense of reality. So Krishna says, all right, you are my devotee and you're not completely intelligent. Krishna, he's completely intelligent. We are always limited, and somehow or another he will guide us, he will help us. We just have to put out that sincerity. We will just have to sincerely take to the process of Krishna consciousness. And we can understand, and sometimes we can't understand. We can't always understand. Because in this world, we look around and everyone is different. And they have their opinions and they have their activities. And right now, you look in the news. And all over the world, we have this fighting and conflicts and dishonesty and natural catastrophes, and we can't understand it. But Krishna can understand it. He's in the heart of each and every one of us. And even if we are all of the same nature, like that little spiritual spark that is an eternal personality, and then we take birth in, within the covering of one body or another body, and boom, we are completely identifying with that body. Prabhupada was saying that in the Second World War, if you had the German Nazis and they were trying to kill off all the persons that came from the Jewish background, and this animosity, it was so intense, and the level of killing, it was so intense. But then maybe at the time of death, you're thinking about that person who's your enemy, and in your next lifetime, you take birth in that group, and you grow up in that group, and you completely identify with that. So, in this life I'm a human being. Maybe in a previous life I could have been, a boar or a seagull or whatever, and they're completely identified with that body. But Krishna always knows who they are. He always knows who each person is. And we go through this long chain of birth after birth. But then we finally take to devotional service, and we finally turn to Krishna and say, my dear Lord, from this day on I'm yours. Please engage me in your service. And then sometimes, we get distracted. We end up on a detour, and we may forget Krishna. Krishna does not forget us. And especially if we don't get distracted, if we don't get out on a detour, but still our own level of understanding and intelligence and capacity is limited, still we can actually trust Krishna that he will give the understanding by which they can come to me. And if we can have that, then that is the most precious, important, valuable thing we can find in this world. And Krishna says he will give it to us. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.